How do you do, folks? My name is Brian Johnson, and welcome to another episode of Freedom to Be Free. Thank you for joining us here. We're at Urban Legend in Hamilton, New Jersey. And we've been thinking about quite a few things, and they're so serious and on my mind that I don't have a lot of smiles behind them, I don't really think, because I can actually feel, as I was studying this lesson, feel the sense of duality that I want to speak about. I was thinking about how we need to transcend this sense of duality, this sense of opposites that give us conflict all the time. And it mars our sense of bliss. It mars our Christ nature that's in the very heart of our being. And if we could tap into that nature inside ourselves, we would see something totally different about our lives. We would understand others better, and we would have a better relationship to the very planet that we live on. This sense of duality is very, very different from any sense of diversity, which is the very nature of the universe. Diversity in life is how life was made. So for us to deny the diversity, particularly of ourselves in terms of our races or creeds and genders and so forth, it's absurdity to live on a planet that is fully made diverse, fully created to be diverse and to show all of the beauty of every aspect of life, and to have ourselves in conflicts with each other because we are different. It's an absurdity of living, and we must remove ourselves from that sensibility, to transcend the sense of duality of so much that's different. We're supposed to understand each other and then embrace the very difference that's in each other. Not to necessarily change that difference because we find that other side cute or it's charming to look at because it's something we're not accustomed to, but more so to just be purely embracing of someone else's difference, and see how that difference can fit into all other parts of life, just as flowers have different shapes and breeds and colors and so forth, and animals and so forth. So if you follow me here, what I'm saying is that diversity, different from duality, is how we need to come into life. And there's a point I want to make here, so I can try to build this idea up for you, that diversity is harmony working at its best. Diversity is all life force, a harmony working at its best. It's doing the integration naturally. There's no effort on its part to just exist and to be what it is, as it is, the way it was made. Our problem is that we essentially, in a dualistic thinking, don't like ourselves very much because we don't like how we're made often. And if you follow me here, meaning that in the depth of not liking someone else in their difference from us, in their sense of diversity, which then becomes a dualistic thing because the not liking sets up a different kind of energy from being able to accept the difference and have it exist with you. But not liking that energy, since we are all made as one and all of the energies that are in other people also exist in us, then there are aspects of ourselves that we are also unaccepting of, because we can't just look and appreciate that and have the energies of that appreciation be something that we can identify with on an emotional level. And if we have to keep it back in some kind of way and then find fault with that energy, then we are not able to keep the harmony and the balance within ourselves. Now, it's different from seeing someone who, say, has a propensity for murder and madness and mayhem. You certainly stay away from the energies of that far-swung duality, which is a darkness in and of itself. And the further you go into that, the more horrendous the acts of any human being might be. And contrarily, if you swing the pendulum the other way, there's all of this light and positive energy that is in a state of elation, but at the same time, that high state of elation, which vibrates so very, very quickly, must also needs come down to find its balance. So if you follow me here, this Christ nature, this calm, this centered kind of energy is that very kind of energy that we need to exist properly on the planet, because there's an equanimity in that energy that may swing to the left or swing to the right from time to time. In fact, it does in us all the time. But when we set up the consciousness that that kind of energy is an either or situation, when we set up the consciousness where it in in our observation of it, there's this duality, and this duality makes it an either-or situation rather than a sense of flow. It is this and it is that. It is this and it is that. And if you can feel the fluency of how I'm trying to bring it across, you can tell the difference between there being some kind of a schism between any aspect of life rather than a flow through the differences of the diversity that are even on the pendulum swing of great darkness and great light. It's a difficult thing perhaps to really understand and feel on some kind of a level, but we get there by spending time quietly and being in the center of our very selves and finding the proper vibrations and energies that we hold ourselves, which makes it much more easy to identify with that which is outside of ourselves. Consequently, we are often instead placed in a position where, because we are running around frantically in the stresses of our duality, that we can't even spend the time to appreciate ourselves to eradicate the duality, nor anybody else's. And instead, we shoot judgments, we create conflict, we feel as though that other difference is somehow or some way a problem for us. And if this were not so, the condition of the planet certainly wouldn't be where it is today. There's conflict of all sorts for all kinds of reasons, whether it's power plays or someone feels threatened because there's not enough sustenance in an area, whatever the case may be, men against women, and all of this, which is foolishness. It's nothing but foolishness from a dualistic mind. And I have a little standard for myself that if it's not really love, if I'm not expressing love correctly, that means I'm acting out of a spirit of immaturity. Because true love is analyzing this sense of duality from a calm perspective as much as you can get there. And in that calm perspective, you are able then to dole out some wisdom based on the love that you hold for all things and all situations. And in that is wise judgment. And such wise judgment is a power in and of itself, if you need power. The problem is that most folks want, and I'm saying need power, meaning false power, that sense of needing to hoard over the very dualistic creation that we have consciously become. But if we're looking at this thing correctly, there's no great effort when there's no dualistic consciousness. There's no unnecessary stress. You don't feel the same kind of pressure. We don't have the strain. Because in this system of our living, where we have to get and we owe money to someone else and all the rest of this, which is a reality for us right now that works a tremendous stress on our consciousness and our bodies, our thinking, our hearts. If the world is set up differently, then the sense of dualism is not present. And everything that exists well taken care of. And the only effort we have to put forward is just a focused flow without resistance to do the things that we feel we need to do and to receive the things that we should have. This is true growth to me. This is true maturity to me. And I've fallen short and still fall short often. In fact, far too often. I'm trying to bring my pendulum back the other way so that I can get in the center of this thing. And I hope you're trying to do the same thing. I hope in your life you're working to get to a place where there's calmness and equanimity in your system, because by transcending the sense of duality, you find a bliss that is you. Had just a little bit of technical difficulty there. I hope it didn't interrupt this too much. But I was saying that there was a calmness and a blissfulness that you get to where you get to recognize your true self, and the real you is really really present there, that you're actually there, that you exist, and you exist blissfully and beautifully, that you exist beyond the conflicts of duality, that you exist in such a wonderful way, that the peace of your being surpasses all the understanding, that you get to know, you have a different kind of intelligence, you get to know and understand things. That space, that it enhances your understanding. It brings you to an understanding of universal supply and abundance in all of its forms. And all of its forms means love, your daily needs met, water, food, relationships, peace, beauty, perfect form of living. It is the balanced life that we might call the utopia, or the heaven here on earth. And it's something that all of us can contribute to and bring to our communities, bring to ourselves first, bring to our homes next, bring to your neighbors and your community next. And then if each of us does that, this kind of heaven on earth understanding of our existence, that kind of consciousness becomes the very thing that we are privy to, that perfect first understanding of existence, the way we were meant to exist. It's a joy. It's a beautiful place to be inside your own soul. And if you're in your own soul with that kind of joy, and if I'm in mine with that kind of joy, then the two of us together are changing a great deal of energies all around us. And we transcend the sense of duality that has the lack and the limitation, that has the suffering, and it has the conflict. It has all of that in it. And the closer we get to that, the more you see love, the more you become love, the more you understand love. And it is the Christ nature. It is that understanding. If you really want to get Jesus right, if you really want to get Buddha right, if you really want to get Krishna right, and all the other avatars that have ever been sent here from God, because they came with knowledge, and the knowledge that they had was perfect and beautiful for the time and the people to whom they were sent. So no sense of conflict there. Man made the conflict. Man made the conflict. God would not create the conflict for his people to go back and forth about great teachings of love. And that, again, is my barometer. It's my common denominator when you start speaking to me about philosophy and religion. Because in that, I feel the dualism. I feel the pull. I feel the conflict. I feel the rising up of two entities that want to make themselves right in the name of the very creator they're both talking about. That is absurdity. Love is the only thing that will matter here if we wish to exist correctly. Anything other than that, in the solving of our problems, love. Where there seems to be a lack of wisdom, more love, because it brings more wisdom. That's all true power, because it helps us to exist in the power of peace beyond the dualism that keeps us in the harmony of the universe. All creation moving on point at the right time. The earth spins, the planets go around the sun, all the solar systems go around the galaxies. It is a perfect order. Seeds fall to the ground, things grow. You don't have to do anything. The elements got you covered. That's harmony. That's beauty. That's peace. That's joy. That's abundant living, everyone. That's abundant living. Anything absent from that is conflict, suffering, stress. It takes time, and resistance is present, because as we try to return to our centered selves, as we try to get to ourselves, resistance is present because we're so far one way or the other. And that resistance, of course, will build determination and spiritual muscles and keep us focusing until we achieve out of the discomfort and into the very light and joy that we actually want to receive and are. Isn't that just beautiful? To be able to know that the roadmap back to the perfection that you are is inside. It's not only outside. It should be like, shoot, I'm going to get there real quick, y'all. I'm not going to stay in this space any longer. That's the beauty of having this knowledge, having the very knowledge of it itself is of an ascension quality of joy. If you take it in, because as soon as you can identify with it in any way of consciousness, you've already clicked yourself up a notch in your energies, in your consciousness, to come above any sense of conflict. It's not either or. It's black and white. It's short and tall. It's round and straight. That's the beauty of it all. God bless you. Peace be you. Be love.